Teresa Rowe. To find out more about Shaped by Faith and Teresa Rowe, please visit shapedbyfaith.com or visit the YouTube channel, Facebook, or Instagram. And now, here is Teresa Rowe.
Welcome to Shaped by Faith, where we shape our bodies and hearts for God's purposes. My guest today is Tracy Crump. She is a writer, speaker, and editor, best known for contributing more than 24 stories to Chicken Soup for the Soul and other anthologies. She has published more than 100 devotions and dispenses hope in her book, Health, Healing, and Wholeness, Devotions of Hope in the Midst of Illness. Her articles have been featured in magazines such as Focus on the Family, Parent Life, Mature Living, and Woman's World. As co-director of Right Life Workshops, Tracy encourages others to write better right now. She edits a popular newsletter with story call-outs that has inspired many to move forward with their writing, and her love of teaching takes her to conferences where she helps writers hone their craft. She is a freelance editor and a proofreader for Farmer's Almanac and recently started a blog for caregivers. Welcome to Shaped by Faith, Tracy.
Thank you, Teresa. It's always a joy to be here with you.
Absolutely. You've been on a few times before, and I always love catching up with you. And I love the way that God just takes what you're putting out there by faith and advances it for his kingdom purposes. It's just amazing to watch and to follow the progress of your book on social media and all the things that God is doing in your life. So I'm so excited for our listeners to hear about it. But before we get to that, why don't you give us your background and tell us what your life was like before becoming an author?
Well, I have to tell you first, Teresa, I never planned to be a writer. It was never on my radar. I didn't even like writing when I was in high school. I from the age of 10, I knew that I wanted to be a nurse. And so I did. I became an ICU nurse, worked in ICU for 5 years. And as much as I love nursing, my heart's desire was to be a stay-at-home mom. And so that's what I did when we had our first child. I stayed at home. And then we ended up homeschooling, which also was not on my radar. But just like anything God, ordains, it was a huge blessing. Yeah. But after my boys graduated, that's when God put it into my heart to write about some family issues that I thought could help other people.
Mm-hmm. So did that writing, when you started, Tracy, did it come easy to you? Did it just like it was inspired and you just kept going with it, or how did that happen?
Yeah, actually it was. I was always good in English in school. I just didn't like writing. Mm-hmm. And so it did. It came surprisingly came pretty easily.
Well, let's talk about your book, Health, Healing, and Wholeness. What inspired you to write this book?
Well, it was actually an agent's idea for me to do a devotional book. I had met him at a writer's conference, and he said, I had pitched kind of a couple of novel ideas to him. And he said, well, you know what? He said, nonfiction really sells better than fiction. He said, you've written so many devotions. He said, why don't you try publishing a devotional book? And I really liked publishing the short pieces. I had done that for years. And I thought, well, I could do that. And it was just natural for me to return to my nursing roots. I thought about things that I had seen when I worked in ICU, just God's hand on people, healing people, just things that happened that I thought, this might be a real encouragement to other people. So it was just like I came full circle from my early days in nursing to writing this book.
It's interesting how our life, everyone has a specific purpose, and we should bring awareness to what's going on, of course, but how God also uses that at the same time if we allow him. Of course, it's our choice, yes. To allow God to use us in that way. And it's really neat to look at your life and, like you said, to bring everything around full circle and how God has used your past for his purposes and to help so many people. So what are some things you hope the readers will be helped with through your book?
Well, the stories that I used in the devotions are really about a variety of illnesses and situations. So no matter what someone is facing, I hope that they will show that there's always hope with God. Mm-hmm. One time, I know several years ago, a pastor said that many times we don't look up until we're flat on our backs. So that's the time we start kind of facing eternity if we're very, very ill. And so I just do hope that these stories, these devotions would draw someone to the Lord and show them that He is always there for them.
Mm-hmm, that is good. Tell us about the opportunities God has opened through your book to share with people who are undergoing a health crisis or maybe a family member.
Yes. Well, it's been amazing what He's done, Teresa. My dream was to get the book into the hands of people who may feel like they're facing hopeless situations.
Mm-hmm.
And so my original thought was that, hospital gift shops would be the perfect place for it. Well, it's very, very difficult to get into those. And so that didn't work out. But just recently, God has been opening doors to place the book in cancer treatment centers. And there was a cancer ministry just a couple of weeks ago. I took a case of books to them, and they're going to be putting it into gift baskets. And they give those out to people who are beginning cancer treatment. In fact, the whole board of that ministry, they are all cancer survivors.
Oh, wow.
And so I was just thrilled about that. And before Christmas, I did take it to a cancer treatment center, and they're going to put them in their library and their devotional room where that people can go and pick one up. And so I'm very, even though like I say, the stories cover a variety of situations and illnesses, I just think this is a great opportunity to get this into the hands of people who really, really need that hope. And on top of that, the publisher has offered a 40% discount and free shipping for what he calls box sets of 25 or more books. And actually, I did not donate these books. They were donated by businesses in my area who wanted to show people that are facing cancer that there are people in the community that care about them.
Oh, wow.
And afterwards, after I posted about it on Facebook, a couple called me who were both cancer survivors, and they said they wanted to donate a book because they just wanted to kind of give back. They knew how encouraging it was to them when they got a basket of things that some of them were Christian material that really helped them in their battle. So it's a great way to honor anyone who has battled cancer.
Yes, and wow God in opening that door, and everyone needs hope, but especially if you're going through something like cancer and to be able to read those stories of hope. I mean, that's amazing, but you already know that. So what type of response are you getting from those who've read your book? I mean, do you hear from people?
I do occasionally. They say that, people with all kinds of health problems, whether they're acute or long term, they say it brings them hope, that God is walking with them, that they may be healed, or even if they're not, that God's going to walk with them along the way. And what's really been encouraging to me is when people go back and buy more copies to give to friends who are facing cancer or other illnesses.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my friends, she took it up to the hospital and started giving it out to nurses.
Oh, wow.
When her brother was in the hospital. And then one woman called me, I guess it was shortly before Christmas, and she said, "Where can I find your book locally?" She said, I've got 2 relatives who've been just diagnosed with cancer and they need your book. And she said, "I've just waited too late to order one online. I need to get it now." And so I told her where there was a gift shop that was carrying it. So, that was encouraging to me to know that people were, not only finding it useful for them, but they thought it would be useful for someone they know.
Oh, yeah, that is very encouraging. Now, we've only got like a minute to go, but do you have a short favorite story that you could share with us?
From the book? Well,
yes.
Probably the opening one is about a little 18-month-old baby. While I was working in ICU, had been brought in. She'd been hit by a car, and she was basically, her pupils were blown. She looked like she was brain dead. And the doctors went in and did surgery, said half of her brain was just like oatmeal, and they said she'll never walk or talk again. But before she left the hospital, she was walking to her mom and talking. She was saying mama and water.
Oh, wow.
And that was, I just think that was God's hand on her.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with more Shaped by Faith. Everyone stay tuned. Welcome back to Shaped by Faith. Tracy Crump, writer, speaker, editor, known for contributing more than 24 stories to Chicken Soup for the Soul and other anthologies. She's published more than 100 devotions, and she dispenses hope in her book. And we're talking about her book today, Health, Healing, and Wholeness, Devotions of Hope in the Midst of Illness. Tracy, you were just sharing with us how God has opened so many doors in different cancer treatment centers and how people are wanting to find out how they can get a copy of your book. And we both know that that is God. You know, yes. It is God. So you're in the early stages of writing your next book. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. What is that about?
It's a devotional book for caregivers.
Okay.
Caregiving has just skyrocketed, Teresa. The latest statistics say that 53 million Americans are providing unpaid care, and that was back in 2020. And it's only going to expand as the population ages. You know, we're living longer, and so we're needing more care. And so I just think this is an important area. And I cared for both of my parents, and then my mother-in-law, who lived to be 100. Lived with us for 4 years before she passed away. And so it was a total of 10 years that I did that and learned a lot. And of course, we mentioned earlier my nursing experience in the past. So anyway, this book will be a little different from the first one because I'm co-writing it with a lady in Kentucky.
Oh.
Her name is Diana Derringer. You may know of her.
Yes.
She's a really sweet lady. She's cared for her husband since his brain tumor diagnosis in 2004. And then after that, he had a major stroke and a fall and a heart attack all at the same time. And so she knows caregiving. I'm really excited to be writing this with her. Our working title is Joy in the Caregiving Journey.
I love that.
Yeah, devotional lifts and spiritual tips. And so that's, of course, based on Nehemiah 8:10, the joy of the Lord is your strength. And we just want people to know that they can, and even though caregiving is exhausting, we understand that. We have been there and done that. We understand. But we want this book to be both encouraging and practical. We're going to include some little practical tips at the end, things that we've learned along the way that might help them, you know, in this journey.
That's
because
good.
It's a hard journey.
Well, could you share maybe just one practical tip with us for caregivers?
Oh, yeah. Actually, there are a lot of, I call them caregiving equipment that I learned about that we used. And there were so many. Just one little simple one is a tray for the walker, a walker tray. Where they can kind of have a little bit of independence. They can put things on their walkers and carry them from room to room. And so it's just a lot of little things like that, that we've learned about.
You know, my mother-in-law, she is, spry. She is 93 years old. She is still living on her own. She did, you know, get one of those, walkers, or it's a little fancy thing, but she does not have a tray. So can you purchase those anywhere?
I think you can go online and get them. Yeah.
Okay.
You would have to use it with a simple kind that you can fit it over the handlebars. So at first may not work with it.
Right.
But
okay. Okay. Now last year you started a blog for caregivers. So how's it going? And what are some of the topics that you write about?
It's going well. I started out just posting once a month, but I got people who, were interested in submitting posts for that. So now we go twice a month, and I've had some wonderful guest posts. I love that because they've had experiences beyond my experiences. I can talk about what I've been through, but people have been through a lot of different things and a lot of different types of caregiving. It's not just caring for an elderly parent. You know, some, like Diana, cares for her husband. A lot of people can care for special needs children. So I love that they are willing to share their experiences to help other people. And so I have an open invitation on my website that if anybody wants to submit something, that I will be glad to consider it. And you asked about what topics. We've had just a variety of things. We've talked about the value of humor in caregiving. I talked once about a workshop that I attended called Gray for a Day, which opened my eyes to physical limitations that kind of made us be old. I'm old enough, I don't need this, but it kind of opened my eyes to some things. And we posted about showing respect to those who we care for. We've had guest posts about unexpected sources of encouragement and seeing what you do as an act of service, even when it's not easy, the importance of affirmation, just a whole variety of things.
Tracy, regarding caregiving for someone, is that caregiving for someone that doesn't have a lot of ailments going on? Like, let's just say someone does not have a nursing background, but they're healthy and they're able. Can they care for someone in their home?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yes. In fact, the majority of caregivers are caring for someone in their home. And yes, that they don't have to have any kind of nursing background. And there were ways that it helped me, but there were ways that, there were things I was unprepared for. And so you just learn as you go. But that's the point of the book and the blog and all that, is to kind of help them along that way.
Okay. When will your new book be out? Do you know?
We don't know yet. We're still searching for a publisher. So it may, and nothing happens fast in the publishing industry, as you know.
Right.
So it may be a while.
Okay. So you're on social media, and that's where most people are, it seems like. Tell us about the series of reels that you're doing on Instagram called Caregiving Tools.
Okay. Well, that's just where, sharing about things that made my life easier as a caregiver, or that helped me provide comfort or independence for my parents or my mother-in-law. And it's just kind of what I mentioned before, just like the tray for the walker. What I do is I show one thing with each reel and tell how it works. And it's nothing, most of these are low cost. I'm not affiliated with any of these products, but it's just something that will help them to improve their caregiving experience. And it's everything from the walker tray to bathroom equipment. There's the removable shower bars. There are something called a handy bar that you can get to just put in temporarily in your car to help them get in and out. Just a variety of things that will help them to make their life easier.
Well, everyone needs to know about those tools. So that is awesome. So you're on Instagram. What's your name on Instagram? What do you go by?
It's Tracy Crump Writes.
Well, that's easy to remember. Tracy Crump Writes. Okay. Everyone check her out on Instagram. So when did you start writing for Guidepost, and is it easy or challenging for you coming up with new ideas for devotions? I mean, you've written a lot of devotions.
Yeah. I started writing for Guidepost about 4 years ago, I think. I first started writing for All God's Creatures, which is all about animals and how they're, using those to relate to something in God's Word. And they just completed the 2024 book. They work way ahead. And so I contribute usually 7 to 10 devotions to each of those books. And then I've started, just recently submitting regularly to, Strength and Grace, which is their magazine for caregivers.
Okay.
And so I have lots of ideas, but I'm writing for posts for my blog and writing posts, or chapters for the book, devotions for the book, and then devotions for this.
You are a full-time writer.
I am, and for caregiving, so it's all about caregiving. So I have to get a little, you have to kind of keep straight which one I'm writing for. Go ahead.
Do you wake up and do your morning routine and then just dive right into writing? Is that what you do, or?
Well, sometimes, a lot of, of course I'm on social media too, so I'm doing posting and things there and, responding to emails. So it's a little of everything. It's a little of everything.
Okay. Well, let's take a quick break. Okay. We're going to come before we start another topic because you've got a lot more to say. So, we'll be right back with Shaped by Faith. Everyone stay tuned. Welcome back to Shaped by Faith. Tracy Crump, writer, speaker, editor. Her book, Health, Healing, and Wholeness, Devotions of Hope in the Midst of Illness. You need to get a copy. And Tracy, where can we purchase a copy of your book?
Oh, it's found on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, or really any of the distributors. And some of the bookstores carry it.
And the book that you are co-writing today, this year with Diane Derringer, is called Joy in the Caregiving Journey. Is that correct?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Based off of Nehemiah 8:10, the joy of the Lord is our strength. So we are going to look forward to that. And when you're getting ready to launch it, I would love you to come back on and talk about it.
Oh, that would be great.
Well, you're also an editor besides writing full time. So what do you enjoy most about being an editor and helping other authors?
Well, I think I enjoy most helping them clarify what they're saying. You know, you don't realize sometimes when you're doing the writing how it looks to other people. And so I like helping them clarify that and tighten the writing so it's really sharp. And that way I think it will appeal to the readers more and make sure you're getting across what you're trying to get across. You know, I correct grammar and punctuation to help polish it, but I think it's so important to clarify. And I also enjoy getting to know them along the way. That's always a joy too.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's now talk about, the importance for writers to attend workshops. How important is that?
Oh, I think it's extremely important. I've always said I think the two most important things you can do to improve your writing and propel your career is to attend a conference where you'll find many workshops and join a critique group so you can get feedback on your writing. In fact, Teresa, I'm presenting 2 workshops this month. One's at the Mid-South Christian Writers Conference, and that's March 17th through the 18th. And then also at the Blue Lake Christian Writers Conference in Andalusia, Alabama. It's March 29th through April the 1st. I've never been to that one before. So I was really tickled that she had contacted me. And the Mid-South Christian Writers Conference, as I think you know, but your listeners may not, is held near Memphis in Collierville, Tennessee.
Okay. And that's the one that's March 17th and 18th?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the one March 29th is held where?
Is Andalusia, Alabama.
Andalusia, Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So how can people find out about these? Do they go to your social media page, or how do they find out?
Yes, and I'll have it in my newsletter too. They can go to Right Life Workshops or tracycrump.com and sign up for my newsletter called The Right Life. And I tell about the workshops that I'll be speaking at. And they'll also get story call-outs for Chicken Soup for the Soul books. That's a little perk.
That's pretty neat. That is that you actually give, other people an opportunity, to write for Chicken Soup for the Soul. I mean, everyone's heard of Chicken Soup for the Soul. So, very nice.
It's a great market.
Yes. How do you encourage writers? You say, especially in your bio, you say, write better right now.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you should ask, because one of the workshops I'll be presenting is on doubt busters. And I think one of the biggest hindrances to writing is doubt. I think people get excited about it and then they think, oh, I really can't do this, or they'll write something up and then they'll never submit it. So one tip I give is to let go of perfectionism. We think it has to be perfect before we can send it out, and we do need to get it as nice and well written as we can. But I like what Cecil Murphy said. He's a New York Times bestselling author. He said he knows that when he does his best, that's the best he can do at that point in his career. And he's always going to improve and try to improve, but he has to let go of that. And I like one thing he said, I have to decide if I will release my imperfect manuscript or hold on to the perfect manuscript inside my head. So I think that's one thing that we have to get over is perfectionism.
That is so good. And fear of failure. I think, people also have that fear of failure or rejection or, things like that going on.
Right. And that's another one. You will get rejected. That's just part of the game.
You better have some thick skin going on
there.
Yeah,
exactly.
So what is next for you? I mean, you're doing so many things right now, but has God given you, this vision, what you're going to be doing next after this book that you're working on is completed? Yeah.
Well, right now it's hard to see past the caregiving book, but and really it's wherever God leads. I've had thoughts about doing a book, another devotional book for nurses, based on other nursing experiences. So that's a possibility, but, I'm always open to wherever he leads.
What about doing a cruise for caregivers?
Oh, that sounds good.
Cruising with caregivers.
Yeah. You can be our exercise leader.
I could do your fitness. Yes. I've actually never been on a cruise before. So if you have one of those, Tracy, you can sign me up and I'll do the fitness for free. How about that?
Oh, you'll be the first one I'll call.
That would be so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
Tracy, you have a wealth of information. You're on Instagram, you're on Facebook, you're on LinkedIn. What about YouTube? Are you on YouTube?
I have a channel on there. I have a few recordings, usually podcast recordings that I've done in the past. So there are some things on there.
Okay,
and some teaching lessons too.
Good. Okay.
From a podcast that I have done. So.
Okay.
And I also have a course on Serious Writer, on writing for Chicken Soup for the Soul that's been very popular.
Serious Writer. Okay. All right. It's always a pleasure, always, speaking with you and hearing what God is doing in your life and other people's lives. So thank you so much, Tracy, for being a guest again on Shaped by Faith.
Thank you for having me, Teresa.
Absolutely. And thank you for listening. I'm Teresa Rowe. Everyone have a blessed day.
Thank you for listening to Shaped by Faith with Teresa Rowe. Remember to visit shapedbyfaith.com to find out more about workouts, the TV show, podcasts, blogs, Shaped by Faith products, and much more.
From the Cabinet Doors and More studio, this